Welcome to the Midweek Mailbag Trade Deadline Edition. We are a week away from the trade deadline. It is literally on next Tuesday, Halloween, I believe. But we are here live the Tuesday night prior to that. My name is Jeremy Reisman. I'm the producer, of Pride of Detroit. Yep. I'm off my game right now. You can find me at Detroit Online on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. With me, as always, is managing editor, a.k.a. The Machine, a.k.a. at Erik Schlitt with a K on Twitter. Erik Schlitt is here. Erik, how we doing, buddy?
Hey, I think it's because it's the evening, maybe, that it's throwing you off.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like we're normally in the mid afternoon of the midweek, and so there's a lot of mids on this main show.
A lot of mids, huh? I don't know if
mids.
That does not seem like a compliment. I don't think you want to be a mid. I know you're probably not hip with the kids' language these days.
I mean, there's nothing mid about the content. Let's put it that way.
There we go. Anyways, this is our midweek mailbag, our midweek podcast, obviously, where we answer your questions. If you want to ever send us questions, you can send it via Twitter is probably the best way to do it. If you want to hashtag it AskPOD, probably the easiest way for us to see it. But as expected, because we were a week away from the trade deadline and because the Lions made it very obvious that they are not quite a complete team on Sunday, a lot of you have questions about the trade deadline, so we are going to take at least the first segment to talk about that and answer a bunch of your questions. We're going to kick things off with @SleevedUp on Twitter asks, what should Lions fans realistically expect for the trade deadline? My thought is a mid-tier move like trading a 4th-round pick for a solid player at cornerback or edge. It's the ultimate question, right, Erik? We don't really have precedent here with Brad Holmes. He's never really been in a position where he could or should be a big buyer. So I don't know. What are you expecting a week out here?
I'm not expecting much. And I know everyone wants, action, and they like the excitement of the trade deadline. But I think they've built a deep enough roster that they're not overly worried about having to fill a need or mortgaging part of their future, at least a significant part of their future, to try and fill a hole that they might have now. And there are a couple holes that have occurred because of injuries or whatnot, right? And so, wide receiver, corner, those make sense to me. But at the same time, you've got some depth at wide receiver. So if you trade for a guy, the only guy that's, maybe worth trading for is someone who's going to make an impact as a starter, and you're going to have to pay for those. And again, I don't know if they want to. So my expectations are to keep your expectations very low.
Yeah.
If they do acquire a guy, my kind of guess is it might come in the secondary because of the Mosley injury.
Sure.
Again, I don't know if they're looking for, a youth player that's going to come in and challenge to start necessarily. It's possible they look at a veteran that's out there and try and add some depth so that you're not having to turn to Will Harris if there's an injury. And I mean, that makes more sense. But again, I just don't see Brad Holmes wanting to deal anything more than like a mid day 3 pick.
So you kind of agree with Sleeved Up here. Yeah, as we're guessing here, right? Because I said, certainly. Like, we don't really know what Brad Holmes is thinking. We don't know what his philosophy is. When you've reached this level of competitiveness, do you want to try to go all in a little bit early? And all in is maybe an exaggerated term. Like, this is still a very young roster. If they, trade a 2nd-round pick and get a big-time starter, that's not mortgaging your future necessarily. I do think it was a little bit interesting what Dan Campbell said on the radio today when asked about the trade deadline. He said some very, like, of course you're going to say all this sort of stuff, but what his focus seemed to be on was, listen, if we're going to add a guy, we have to make sure, one, that he's a culture fit, right? We're not going to bring in a guy that's going to disrupt the harmony that we have going on here. And it has to be for the right price. And I think that last part is what kind of leads me to believe what you're thinking, that this is not a team that is going to shell out. Brian Burns is a guy that everyone wants, right?
Yeah, but you're going to pay a first and
Right.
maybe a third or a fourth as
Right.
well,
Yes,
right?
because if you don't remember, the Los Angeles Rams tried to trade for Brian Burns last year, and they reportedly offered them 2 first-round picks and more, maybe even a second after that. I think they upped their ante. So, granted, this is the last year of Brian Burns' contract, so it probably won't be as expensive, but it's going to come at a hefty price, and I'm not so sure that the Lions are prepared to do that. But because they want a guy that fits their culture, that makes me think that maybe they're thinking along the lines of a veteran player, a guy that has been in the league, that knows how to be a professional, that they can trust to come in and not rock the boat too much. And so, these rookie guys like Patrick Surtain's obviously another big name out there, but all indications seem to be that Denver's not going to trade away their first round pick who's balling out in the middle of his rookie contract, because why would you trade that? Like, I understand you're a bad team, but he's still a low cost guy that you still have a couple more years on in his rookie deal. So I don't think Surtain's going anywhere. And even if he were available, like, I don't know if the Lions would get into a bidding war for him. So all of that to say, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I wouldn't be surprised if they go to maybe like a third or a second round pick to get a really high quality starter, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, particularly maybe at outside corner. But I just don't know if those stars are going to align for the Lions in terms of talent, in terms of personality match, culture match, all that sort of stuff. It's tough. It's what makes the trade deadline such a dangerous game, because you have such a short runway for this player to become acclimated to your. I mean, you see what the Lions do with all their new players, right? The rookies, like, slowly acclimate. If you're coming back from injury, slowly acclimate. Well, if you're trading for a guy at the deadline, you are throwing him into the fire, and so you're going to have a lot of trust in whoever you trade for.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't think there's like a really. I think what fans are, or from what my perception of what I've seen on social media and interaction with fans, is that they want a big splash,
right,
future type player, and they're willing to give up a ton for them. And I just don't see that in the cards. That's again my guess based on how Holmes has approached the last couple of off seasons.
All right, next question comes from Nate Simmons on Twitter. Asks, would whatever you have to give for an elite pass rusher, Devontae Adams or Patrick Surtain, be worth it? Max Crosby, Brian Burns, Danielle Hunter are some of the options. Or do any of those guys seem like maybe someone you would be willing to pay? And I guess what would be the max for one of those guys? Devontae Adams, Surtain, Crosby, Brian Burns, Danielle Hunter. Any of those guys? Like, would you pay a second round pick for Danielle Hunter?
No, I wouldn't. He's in his 30s now, right? I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
He's close if he's not.
Or he's at 30 or something like that. I wouldn't pay a second rounder for him.
He's 28.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, still, he's been around. It seems like he's been around for a long time. So,
2015, he has.
A second just seems high for a position that you have a lot of depth at and you're messing around with.
Right.
He's not as clean of a scheme fit, so you'd be trying to alter your scheme again. See, like, they've already altered their scheme once during this season. Like, right. They weren't getting the production that they wanted out of Charles Harris, so they basically flipped Hutch over to that side, added Kaminsky, and then now Jack, the Jack linebacker, or Sam linebacker, is now Jack Campbell. And so they've switched to that front. And so if you were to add like a guy like Danielle Hunter, you'll be flipping it back. You'd be adding Hunter and then you're reducing Kaminsky and you're reducing. Would they do it? I don't know. I mean, but you'd have to find like the right guy that fits the right thing. Like a guy like Max Crosby is the ideal fit for this roster, for this scheme. But you're not getting him for a second. You're paying a first plus for him. And again, I just don't know if that's necessarily in the cards. The Raiders, I don't even know if they would be interested in dealing him for the 32nd pick in the upcoming draft. So I don't know.
It's tough.
I think, it seems very challenging. I would keep I would keep Adams' cost low as well, like because again he's older, has got a bigger contract, and
he rocks the boat a little bit, right? He's not afraid of speaking to the media, which I'm not sure will fly. I mean, listen, the Lions will allow their players to be who they are, but at the same time, there's enough drama in their wide receiver room right now that I'm not sure Devontae Adams. I mean, Max Crosby, I think, is an ideal scenario. You're getting a young player. You're getting a full effort guy, a guy that Dan Campbell would absolutely love. But price is very much an issue, and I just don't know. It's not only the trade capital; it's the amount you're going to have to pay him, and how many times have we talked about the big deals on the horizon that the Lions are going to have to pay in house, whether it's Amon-Ra or Panay or Jared Goff or whoever. Like there's a lot of people that have to be paid, and yes, you can probably fit all of this in with some salary cap gymnastics, but it's not going to be easy. And then I also think the other part of this too is we're all taking this from the Lions' point of view. Mm-hmm. But look around the league right now. There are, of the 32 teams in the NFL, 23 have 3 wins already. All but 9. How many of those teams are going to be willing sellers right now when they're right in the mix of everything?
That's the trick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the trick. If you're looking at those 9 teams, then you're hoping to find a talented player at a position that they have,
right?
Quantity of, plus the cost. Like, so, okay, for example, we're talking about corners, and we're talking about, is there one of those 9 teams that has a veteran corner, maybe at a cheap cost that you could pay a day 3 pick for and maybe get? We're going to see him this weekend, the guy in my mind. And that's Marcus Peters. Mm-hmm. I think Marcus Peters is a guy who's 30 and he's got a lower contract. He's comfortable in man, comes from the, Raven scheme. So he's familiar with Duker. And I don't think you're going to have to overpay, and he's not going to kill your cost. And so like a guy like Marcus Peters, maybe, maybe he's a guy that the Lions would go after, and he doesn't necessarily have to start. So, but that's the thing, is it's so hard to find. Like if you look at the rest of the Raiders,
the Raiders are also 3-4. Like I know it's a very fraudulent 3-4, and no one in the NFL necessarily respects them. But you think in house they're like, we're 3-4, but we know we're actually not that good. We're not going to try. Like we're just not going to try. We're going to tank at 3-4. Like that's just not how it works.
Yeah.
And
that's
like
right.
Washington's another example. Like I know there's crazy rumors spreading around the Lions are about to pillage the Commanders. The Commanders are 3-4. They're a half game out of a playoff spot. I don't think they're ready to start selling.
And that's really the thing is which of these bad teams has a guy that's talented enough that you're willing to go after, yet they're willing to part with when they're probably getting ready to rebuild. Like it's a hard, hole to try and throw that needle through there in order to try and like make it worth your while.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the player match that makes, I guess, the most sense. But again, it's coming from the Commanders, so I don't know if it's really a realistic thing, because I don't know if the Commanders are truly in it. But Kendall Fuller to me is a guy that he's a veteran. He's played long enough. He's got a little bit of inside outside versatility that it at least makes a little bit of sense to me. But he's on the last year of his deal, I believe, too. All of that, sure, like maybe. I think Washington just drafted 2 young corners too. But at the same time, if you have 2 young corners, having a guy like Kendall Fuller in the room is a great, a resource for those guys. It's what we want. We always wanted for someone like Jeff Okudah and never got. So again, yeah, it's easy from our point of view to be like, I want that player, I want that player, I want that player. But when you look at it from their point of view, you have to be like, okay, does it make sense for them to trade him though? And I just don't think there are that many obvious teams that obviously should unload that have obvious fits in Detroit. That's where I'm at. All right. You know what? Let's flip the script here. Forgive the Twitter name, but at Farts and Boners asks, a lot of questions about who we should trade for, but is there anyone on our roster do you think we should legitimately consider trading away?
Well, I wouldn't have said Charles Harris before this week, but now all of a sudden I think he might be vulnerable.
Sure.
I think Julian Aquara was getting a shot to prove that he could do something. And did Julian do anything against the Ravens that made you take notice of him? And
so like 7 snaps.
Oh, exactly. So so I think that puts him on the trade block as well. What's interesting to me is when you listen to Shepard talk last week, he was talking about the Jack Campbell and how Jack Campbell fits what they want to do at the Sam, and how he brings something different because it's not as comfortable of a position for guys like XXX. And then he mentions Julian.
Right.
And I'm like, this is Julian's path. Julian should be playing at the Sam. And the fact that he really isn't, I think makes him highly vulnerable as well. So Julian, Charles, I think those guys are high enough value players that they might be players that someone might be interested in adding to like a depth rotation, or maybe adding to their rebuild because Julian's athleticism is so good. But like, you're not going to get anything from him. You know what I mean? Like, you're just not. Right. So like, thinking anything that teams are going to come to the Lions and say, are you interested in trading him? You're probably not going to trade because you're in the hunt. So
right. And I'm sure they like their depth. Like, obviously you don't want to have a Charles Harris on the bench necessarily. And the Lions have even said, this isn't it for Charles Harris. He's very much still in our plans. He can very much work his way back in the starting lineup, all that sort of stuff. One interesting name that's been thrown out there from some fans I know is Malcolm Rodriguez. And I don't know. I'm not going to immediately dismiss the idea of that. He's a guy that is on the national radar a little bit thanks to Hard Knocks. I think anyone is going to turn their head a little bit when a day 3 rookie is starting from week 1. His use as a fullback is interesting, and it doesn't feel like they're just trying to find ways to get him on the field necessarily, but I think they do like the versatility that he can bring in. We're going to talk a little bit more about Malcolm and him at fullback in the second segment here, but I don't know. Do you give any credence to maybe Malcolm being on the trade block? We even talked to Shepard last week, and he was like, "Listen, we're going to need him because at some point someone's probably going to get injured amongst that linebacking crew." But if you're looking at places where there's maybe a surplus of talent, I feel like linebacker is certainly one of them.
When it comes to roster construction, there's been one constant through all 3 seasons of this regime, and that is they keep 6 linebackers for special teams.
Yeah.
Malcolm is linebacker 4. In order to pull him out of the middle of your depth and trade him somewhere, you better be getting better return than what you paid for him.
Sure.
Because otherwise it's not worth it.
Right.
He's on a massively inexpensive contract that you have for 2 more years.
Yep.
He is a core special teamer, and he is a backup who has starting experience at a valuable position that all of a sudden you're playing 3 guys at. And so, it'd have to be an overpay to pull him away from this regime.
Like a third? Which no one can pay a third for Malcolm Rodriguez, right?
Look, if someone offered a 4th, maybe they'd consider it, but like at the same time, I don't see anyone offering a 4th either. Like, It's just, you're not the cost value on the trade market is if you're spending a 4th or more, you're hoping to get a guy that's going to challenge to start. And where is Malcolm going to challenge to start somewhere? who's decimated with linebacker crew is minimal,
Right.
yet they still need a missing piece to make a run. And I just don't think you'd get the you wouldn't get the benefit of it.
Yeah. I think you're probably right there. Plus, linebacker, I don't know if we're talking about a high value position. Let's be honest.
No, it's not, because you're not going to get you're not going to get what it would take to remove them.
Right. Last one before we go to break here, from our good friend Alamos Mary on Twitter asks, if the Lions don't trade for a cornerback, how do you see them covering that position from their own practice squad or off the waiver wire? It's a good question, because I think people are understandably concerned about the depth at outside corner, right? You had to have Will Harris in there last week. We don't really know what the status on Jerry Jacobs is, but I get the sense if he was close last week and he was doing on-field warm-ups, which suggests he was probably close, he'll probably be back, but it's probably only a matter of time before Cam Sutton or Jerry Jacobs goes down again, and you're going to have to rely on your depth. And I don't know. Do you have a lot of faith in who the Lions have? Do you think the Lions have a lot of faith in who they have beyond maybe Will Harris?
Yeah, I think those are two separate things.
Yeah,
I
right.
think my faith in their depth is not as high as their faith in their
Yes.
depth. In their minds, they have starters in Jerry, Cam, and Brian Branch.
Yep.
And then they have 4 reserves that can both play inside and out. They believe in Gilmore, even though they're not going to rush him. They've liked what they've seen out of Dorsey, but he's mostly a special teams first guy. That's why he made the roster.
Right.
And they think Will Harris can do everything. And so they like their depth. I'm not as sold on it. But again, let's be real. There's no one in free agency. There's not a corner in free agency right now that's going to come in and beat Gilmore out for a job, much less Will Harris. So
otherwise they'd already be on the roster, right?
Correct. Exactly. So if you don't trade for one, you're basically hoping that a team has a disgruntled person that is released, but then at the same time, is that disgruntled person going to be a character fit with your locker room? So I don't know.
At some point, veterans getting released will also be subject to waivers, and I'm sorry to say that we're past the point where Lions are going to get first crack at players on waivers too. You know, they're probably in the low 20s at this point. The other thing I wanted to kind of bounce off of you here is, let's say they decide, Will Harris, you're just going to be either a nickel or you're just going to be a special teams. Who amongst their depth do they trust, do you think, at that outside corner position more? Is it Dorsey? Is it Gilmore? Obviously, in terms of like game day rosters, they trust Khalil more, but I think a lot of that has to do with special teams. So if they needed a defensive player, do you think maybe they throw Gilmore to the fire first?
I wonder. You would. You're gonna call me homers, but I'm gonna say Chase Lucas might be in that mix as well.
Okay.
On the outside. Because he did play outside a little bit in camp. He's much better on the inside though. Like let's be honest, he is. He's just much better on the inside. I wonder if like Will was hurt and Jerry was hurt, I bet they would turn to Gilmore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the upside's there. The athleticism is better than Dorsey. I agree with you that I think Dorsey's spot is special teams, dictated, right?
For sure.
So I do think they would probably go to Gilmore. One thing I probably should have done before we started this was looked at different practice squads, because there might be a corner on a practice squad somewhere that's going to be better than someone who's cut, right?
Sure.
And that's something that teams often do. So I don't know. I mean, I maybe there's some. I'm sure someone has gone through and looked at those. But
that's a lot of work, and that's a lot of speculating all that sort of stuff. Like I already see some people upset about Sterling Thomas, who I wrote about today because he actually started for the Cardinals, which I mean hurts a little bit, but at the same time, like if Sterling Thomas was here, what would he be doing? Probably nothing. He'd probably be in the same spot. Like if he had Stephen Gilmore's spot, he'd be the same thing. Like he'd be active for 2 games so far.
Well, look, this is another spot where I saw something completely different than I guess the Lions did.
Yeah.
And he was a guy that I thought was playing ahead of Gilmore, Dorsey.
He was Lucas, early in training camp. It was undeniable. and Harris.
And Harris, I think he was on that fringe. Like there was a point where he was probably playing. Like I don't know if he was necessarily getting. Yeah, he wasn't getting rep. I mean, he, at some point,
the second team,
Harris was getting reps. Yeah, first.
Yeah,
and then at other points, Starr was getting reps first. And so, my point is he was on that level, and it was the most surprising cut of camp, and it's no surprise that he was immediately picked up.
Yeah.
And it's not surprising that he's gotten a start already either. So, in my opinion, if he was still here, I don't know if he would have started, but he would have played last week, in my opinion.
Maybe. I'm not sure I agree with you there, but I think the staff's love for Will Harris is too strong for them to let that happen.
No, that's why I was saying like he might not have started. But look, Dorsey came in at the end. You know what I mean? Like so.
He did. That's true, and I wonder if that was a performance thing or if I wonder that was pulling Will Harris, who can play every position and we love him, so let's not hurt him. We can have Goff out there. We can have all these other guys out there, but let's protect our Will Harris. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, more of your questions. We're going to move a little bit away from the trade deadline talk and talk a little bit more about Baltimore and going forward against the Raiders and all that fun stuff when we come back here on the Midweek Mailbag. All right.
Okay. Can we just skip the Baltimore part and just go right into the Raiders stuff?
No, we have to address the elephant in the room here. Hello Twitch, hello YouTube. I looked at the wrong way. Twitch is over here, YouTube's over here for me. But because YouTube, you may be new to this, or maybe you came over from Twitch. This is how we do our live streams. We've been on Twitch for 6-7 years now. But we do, since we're recording for the podcast, we record a podcast. What do you call it? Segment. Usually it goes about 20 minutes. We went about 28 there. And then we come in and we just chat with our live audience for another 20, 25 minutes. This is the stuff that doesn't make the podcast. This is just a personalized experience where we hang out with you guys. So if you guys have any interesting questions, we'll answer them now. Or we can just, hang out a little bit, whatever. And we also, because we get a lot of support over on Twitch, we like to thank our subscribers and things like that. YouTube, you guys could also subscribe to. And by subscribe, I mean memberships, I think, which currently carry about 3 or 4 custom emotes. But yeah, I don't think we have a single member yet. But I'm not asking. I'm just if you feel the need to support us in any way, go for it. I'll also say this. Starting November 1st, I don't want any of your subscriptions, any of your paid subscriptions on Twitch. I don't want any of your memberships on YouTube. All I want you guys is to support our charity, which if you don't know YouTube, we have a full charity drive the entire month of November. Details are getting finalized as we speak. There's going to be a lot of prizes. There's going to be auction items. There's going to be a bunch of embarrassing things I do to myself for donations. It's going to be a lot of fun. So anyways, let me thank some subscribers. And then if you guys have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat and I will try to get to as many as we can. Captain James Kirk, 100 bits, says main show. I didn't call it the main show this week.
I did.
Did you?
I said well, when I was talking about it being about mid this, and I got caught up in that little, I said it's kind of mid for the main show. But I also slipped in a I don't think the Raiders would give up, Crosby for pick 32. And the chat caught it, but
I still don't. I don't. Is that what he? No.
Pick 32 would mean the Lions have win the Super Bowl.
See, I've had a pounding headache all day. I was pretty damn upset when the site was down for 3 straight hours, and I was trying to get out 3 different articles.
I wrote two in Word.
Yeah. Yep. Google Docs, baby. All right. Relax, everybody. D-Man, thank you for the 35-month subscribe to the channel. Forest Lion, 36 months. That's 3 years. Says, let's go. Lions going to kill him on Monday. Yeah, I think Lions fans are going to be upset if this isn't like a 20-point win over the Raiders, which is probably an unrealistic expectation. But Lions fans, like, they need a sacrifice after that Ravens game.
Did you read my write-up for the poll this week?
Nope.
Okay. I want to publish that. Maybe we'll publish it tonight after the show or something.
Yeah, that sounds good.
But that was one of my like kind of main questions was like, are they going to rebound, or are they going to like succumb to the pressure, or are they just going to want to like
isn't it interesting though that like a close win to the Raiders is probably still going to piss some people off?
Oh yeah, certainly.
Like just like step back for a moment and think about that.
Well, it's like the
we're moving goalposts.
What's it called today? The
power rankings.
Yeah, like they finished between 6 and 8 in every poll. And I know people are absolutely going to be mad about that. Now, I didn't look at the comments yet because I like my sanity.
You think? I don't think people are going to be mad about that.
No, but like they got mad when Monday Morning Quarterback ranked him 7th last week.
Sure.
To the point that he even addressed it.
Yeah.
In his comments.
I think that
Good job, Lions fan base.
That may have been my fault a little bit.
That's
maybe
fine.
I'm giving myself too much credit, but. I did.
No, that's fine.
I did minorly call them out without calling them out specifically, and I think that mobilized Lions Twitter.
Did you tweeted it from the
from my own account
POD site, right?
No,
oh, okay.
That was from my own account.
That's it's a third of what the POD account has, but that's okay. It's better than 80%, which is I only have 20% of the POD, so. Actually 25 now. 25, I think.
Oh, jeez. I didn't know you have spreadsheets on followers.
Much lower than yours, of course. Which
all right.
I only know because it's one of my wife's favorite conversations. Why does Jeremy have so many more followers than you? I don't know. He's people must like him better.
I will say it's 2 reasons. One, I tweet about 20 times more than you do.
Yeah.
Which also allows me, which is going to be my second point, I 100% lose more followers because of my tweets than you do. All right, let me get to the rest of these subscriptions, and then we'll start answering some questions.
Well, look, I should not be allowed to talk during this because, like, when people write the comments, like, I find them interesting. I think they're
that's part of the reason why we do this is we read your guys' comments and chat a little bit. But JP is me. Thank you for the 17 months. Says still believe in JMO. That is all. B Jesus. Thank you for the 8 months. Says looking forward to Monday Night Football. Wishing Marv the best. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about Marv in a minute here. Dreskel, thank you for the 14-month subscribe to the channel. Captain James Kirk a bit says like Kirk Cousins in prime time. Jeremy is struggling at night. Did you not watch yesterday? He put that narrative to bed. Hardsticks 11-month subscribe to the channel says F the Bears, F the Packers. We'll miss you, MJJ. Thank you for all the memories. Yeah, good, well said. Woodchuck under 100 bit says I really don't think the Lions were out schemed as people believe. With what little film I've seen from the PODD, Pride of Detroit Direct, looks more like the Ravens exploited defensive tendencies. Men covering grass, miscommunications, and poor play played a more of a factor. I think the Lions were definitely outcoached. The Ravens exploited tendencies, not scheme, and it looks like the Lions should perhaps self-scout more. I think that's relatively fair. I think if you guys are subscribed to the Detroit News, Justin Rogers did kind of a whole like what happened on every big play the Lions defense gave up, and kind of came to those similar conclusions of either their player beat our player, or there was some sort of miscommunication, or someone was not playing discipline. They left their. And listen, that's what Lamar Jackson does to people, right?
That was the big one to me.
Right. Is Lamar Jackson. There were so many really good, interesting looking fakes that just sucked in the defense, I thought this was the linebackers' worst game in like 3 years. Like it was, but
yeah, maybe you don't recall what they were like before.
It was bad.
Oh yeah, it was as bad as they played.
But Lamar does that to you. I mean, he makes it look like he's going to run, and you have to kind of respect that at times. But as Dan said multiple times after the game, like you have to take care of your own business first.
Assignment,
if that means Lamar gets 15 yards on the ground, that's not your fault. Don't make it your fault. Don't make a different thing your fault. So yeah, I think that happened a lot in that game, and so yeah, that is not necessarily schematic. I still don't know if it was the right move to close in on the pocket, but they also sent a little bit more blitzes than I thought on live viewing. So we'll see. I don't know.
I didn't like the schematic the calls up front. I didn't like it. If that was their game plan and they think it was right, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, like I would have liked a different approach.
Yeah.
But again, I think the majority of the problem, I agree with you, was execution, right? It was trying to compensate for somebody failing and then leaving your assignment. And then, like you said, linebackers busted that out a lot.
Let me finish this real quick. We're almost caught up here. Luxtables, thank you for the 13 months. Says I hope we trade for a kicker and a long snapper at the deadline. How dare you? I mean, you think the 49ers might be willing to trade their kicker? Moody made he make like a 55-yarder yesterday after missing. He missed an extra point? No, he missed a field goal. The Vikings kicker missed an extra point, I think. Yeah.
He did.
I
remember that.
Captain James Kirk 10-bit says, does the draft being in Detroit play a factor in the Lions' plans to trade picks? I sure hope not.
Yes, it does.
I sure hope not. That would be silly. Robo, thank you for the 28 months, says, let's go F it, Surtain and Burns championship and no first round picks for the next 3 years. Josh Mercer 100-bit says, bummer game for Will Harris too, because I was happy with how he was doing filling in here and there before this game. Eventually the coaches and Brad Holmes have to take a hard look at Will Harris and realize he isn't good enough to fill in on a regular basis. If we have injuries, that should be Jerry's role. Yeah, I think in an ideal world, Jerry is your CB3 coming off the bench, and you have you have maybe a shutdown guy next to Cam Sutton, but that's gonna have to probably be taken care of in the draft, I would imagine. Captain James Kirk 10 bits says, welcome back to the main show. The Lions lost last week to the Ravens. Nothing of a note to comment on. Looking ahead to Monday night with the Raiders. Is that how I should have opened the show? Probably. And Jason F65, 11 months subscribe to the channel, says, appreciate the work you guys do. Thank you so much. Appreciate you and everybody over on YouTube, the 129 of you over there. On Twitch, the 300 plus of you over there. All right, we're through that. We can answer some questions.
So if you're not following my draft watch list, or I've already scouted or suggested people like take a look at 9 different corners already, and I've only done 7 of my top 12. So I still got another 5 guys to go. So I know people don't like looking at some people don't like looking at that stuff, but like I look at it as it's a fun way to watch football on Saturday. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You don't have if you don't have to watch or study up beyond just that fun little Saturday. But it's definitely a position that I they're going to have to address.
One quick thing. Jill in chat asks, will Schlithead stickers be part of the Movember festivities?
Mm-hmm. We should go to Sticker Mule and find out.
There could be a raffle gift. I will tell you that Pride of Detroit stickers will be part of the raffle gifts. Nomical also says, are you crazy? Jerry was leading the NFL in interceptions before he sat. You know who else also had a lot of interceptions one year? Amanio, where are you? Listen, Jerry's playing well. He's not a liability. He's tenacious, but he's not a lockdown corner. He just isn't. And so I think you can look at Jerry and say he's a starting capable corner, but you can also look at him and be like, we can do better. And it's nothing against Jerry. I'm not trying. I know there's a Jerry Jacobs hive that probably doesn't like what I'm saying. But
there is.
I know there is. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is getting clipped right now and sent to him, and I'm going to get buried, and I'm going to get looks in the locker room from Jerry Jacobs. But I think the Lions should strive to do better than Jerry Jacobs. And I think having a guy like Jerry Jacobs as your CB3 is critical. Like, you talk all the time about you need that third offensive tackle, right?
Oh, yeah. Corner's number 2 on that
exactly.
list, yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that's just a good person to have. I don't want them to get rid of Jerry Jacobs. I don't want them to trade Jerry Jacobs. I just want them to look beyond Jerry Jacobs. I want them to look at their roster and be like, we can get better there, because they can. I mean, we also have to be very honest with ourselves. The Lions thought Emmanuel Moseley was going to be that guy. They looked at Jerry Jacobs and they said, let's get better than that. Let's get Emmanuel Moseley. And hopefully when he's back from his ACL, he is our number 2 next to Cam Sutton. I hope that's not being offensive to the Jerry Jacobs hype, because I do like what he's doing out there.
Yeah, Jerry's a little pit bull, man. He's the type of player that doesn't necessarily have like the elite level of athleticism that like some other guys have, but his work ethic is tremendous. And yeah, he's always going to challenge. And I think that's really what you want, is you want someone who can challenge to start, and let the best players win. You've seen this at other positions on the roster, and it works out. Look at linebacker, right? Look at linebacker.
Sure.
Like you got
right. Like, so, no one was like slamming Malcolm Rodriguez and thinking the Lions should get rid of Malcolm Rodriguez, but the Lions are in a great position now that they've upgraded from Malcolm Rodriguez, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that was kind of the narrative on Malcolm, is he's got a lot of talent, and if he's your third linebacker, then you're in a good spot, and that's kind of where they are. And look, corner is such a important position outside of quarterback. Offensive tackle and corner are the top 2 positions that when you lose a starter, the replacement level is typically very, very challenging to replace.
Because it's not only a drastically important position, it is a hard one to find a very talented person at that position.
Correct. And so it's always been, for years, it's always been my philosophy that you need 3 starting capable tackles and 3 starting capable corners.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter who you call the starter or who gets reps. I mean, you have to have 3 outside corners that are capable of starting if you want to be able to sustain an NFL season and make a deep run.
Yep. Agree with you 100%. There was another question I wanted to get. Go
ahead. I have one too.
Robo asks, does this game give you guys pause on Goff's deal at $50+ million a year going forward? No. I mean, he was put in a real bad position. And granted, like, the offense needed to do something in those first 3 drives and they didn't. But if you're getting the ball in the second quarter and you're down 28, There's not a lot. There's one or two quarterbacks in the world that are going to pull you out of that hole. Against the Ravens defense, by the way. Probably one, if that. So I'm not going to overreact to one game with Jared Goff. And I know some people are passing around that quote from the defensive coordinator or a defensive player on the Ravens said, like, yeah, we said all week, like, if you just get Goff under pressure, he crumbles and he starts seeing ghosts out there, whatever the quote was. But I'm sorry, that's called being an NFL quarterback. You're a worse quarterback when you're under pressure. And if there's anything that I learned about Jared Goff through the first 6 games of the season, last game aside, it's that he's actually improved quite a bit in that aspect of his game, in terms of his pocket presence, in terms of his willingness to take a hit while delivering a ball, stand in there and be, flat-footed or not thrown off his back foot. He's been a lot better at that this year. And so one game in which they were put in a absolute tailspin in the first half, I'm not going to hold that against him, especially with the Ravens defense that we all knew was top 5 going into this game.
My stance hasn't changed, I should say. I didn't think that he's a guy that you should be trying to necessarily re-up right at this point anyways. Or,
sure.
I don't think you need to mid-season extend him or anything like that. Like, I don't see the rush. So I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to let him play the whole season out. I want to see what he can do.
Yep.
I'm not in a spot where I'm ready to be like, definitively yes or definitively no. I like what he's done. I think he has improved, and that's hard to do in your late 20s in the NFL to improve.
Sure.
It happens with guys, but it's more rare than than you would think. So I want to see how the season plays out.
Yeah, that's fair. This is the evening edition of the main show after dark, if you will. So if you guys got any risque questions, still probably not going to answer them.
Someone asked if Barnes should switch with Jack Campbell. So with Barnes playing the Sam and Campbell playing the Mike. And so I get that logic because Barnes was a pass rusher at Purdue for 3 years,
right?
And the talent is there. The thing is I think Derek Barnes is a big catalyst for their run success against the run.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Jack's capable of being able to play at that level right now. I think he will be, but is he there now? I don't know. And so I would be hesitant to move him off. Plus, Derek Campbell hasn't played the edge in 3 years, so it's not like he's just going to step in.
Derek Campbell, by the way.
Derek Barnes. I can do what I want.
I'm just trying to make sure the people aren't confused here.
But yeah, I don't think Derek's necessarily going to step in and then all of a sudden be this like world beater.
Right.
I don't think Sam's the ideal spot for Jack either, to be honest. But they're trying to find a way to get him on the field. If anything, I think how they're using Jack points to the fact that they're hoping to have a guy that can cover and pass rush, right? Like that's a spot that they want on the roster, and they don't have it. They've been trying hard to get James Houston to be able to cover so that he could be that guy. They've been working with Julian, but neither of them are there. Jack's not a good enough blitzer to be that guy yet. So if you're looking into the future, those are guys, that's a position to kind of think about. Like that's something that the Lions may be like targeting and saying, hey, this Hassan Reddick type of player that's out there, I bet he would fit real nice into the style of scheme that they're running right now. You're
careful. We're going to talk more about Jack Campbell and stuff in the next segment. So don't step too much onto it, but it's fine. And ball out here. Like I feel you on some level, ball out, because honestly, like I was able to talk myself a little bit into the Jahmyr Gibbs pick, even though I'm team never draft a running back that high, and I still remain that way. The Jack Campbell pick to me was always the one that I haven't come around on. And I'm not like you, and I'm not declaring it's a bad pick. I'm not declaring Jack Campbell to be a bad player or bad value or whatever, but that's the one that I'm having from the get-go the hardest time with, because one, it didn't seem like a particularly big need, and in fact the Lions even admitted they didn't draft Jack Campbell out of need at all. They were happy with what they had there. And I don't know, to me, Jack Campbell did not seem like the generational player that they build him as. But listen, linebacker is a tough position to play in the NFL. I think it takes a ginormous, like, of all the jump in talent, linebackers have to deal with it all, right? You have to deal with the jump in talent and offensive linemen that are blocking you. You have to deal with the speed of running backs at the next level. You have to deal with quarterbacks that are going to play mind games with you that they couldn't in college. You're going to have to deal with receivers that are way faster. You have to deal with all that as a linebacker. It's not just you have to go up against bigger, faster linemen. You have to do all of that. And so more complicated schemes. I think linebacker is one of those positions that might take a long, and I don't have the data to support this, but I feel like it's one of those positions that has a longer learning curve. I mean, we saw it with Derek Barnes for sure. He was kind of transitioning positions as well, but so we need to give Jack Campbell time, but at the same time, I didn't love the pick at the time. I'm not liking how he's playing so far. And we'll talk more in the next segment about why they're playing him, where they're playing him, and if that's a good idea.
If they wouldn't have taken Jack Campbell, I wonder who they would have taken.
That's part of the thing that they kept saying, though, is like it felt like he was the last of their top 13 or whatever, even though they got Sam Laporta and they got Brian Branch after. I don't know.
I would have took Branch. That was
right.
That I think that was the guy that we were like hoping for.
Yeah.
At that point, right? I think Banks went. Oh no, Banks did go after. Never mind. I was thinking Gonzalez. Yeah, Banks was up there.
Yeah,
he would have been interesting. Could have used him. Maybe Starling.
Stop it.
Could have used Starling.
Sweaty, I see that you've redeemed Change My Background. What would you like to change my background to?
Yeah, Nolan Smith. That's a guy that I think the Lions want. That type of guy.
Yeah.
They're going to be interested in.
Ravens fans hated the Patrick Queen pick until this year. There you go. When was he drafted?
First round?
But no, what year?
Second round? Oh, like 3 or 4 years ago.
Really?
When he came into his own, though, was when they got Roquan. Right? So like Roquan all of a sudden makes him look better, It's amazing what happens when you add another talented player at those positions, or you allow that player to play at a more natural spot, or so.
You want me to have a garage background, huh? We've done this before. I don't have a clean picture of Erik, so I'm just gonna have to pull one from the internet.
I can move out of the way if you need me to.
No, that's okay. We don't need to go through all that.
Over on YouTube, someone asked a question about, are there any wide receiver X's in the class? That were almost all of the receivers are X's in this class. It's nuts. It is a loaded X class.
Throw out some names.
I mean, Marvin Harrison's number 1. Keon Coleman's probably number 2. Rome O'Dunes, the Washington kid.
Ooh,
I profiled all 3 of them already. Mitchell from Texas can probably be an X. I profiled all those guys. Those are all X's that I think you can probably look at. Dave,
I know what's happening. Sorry.
Like you might have to use like a first or second rounder. All those guys, maybe you might have to use a first where the Lions are going to end up at. But there's a lot of X's in this class. especially at the top.
There we go. That better?
That looks like a storage facility. That's what that looks like. All right. I think, yeah. Once you get past Marvin, I think a lot of those X's could fall. We'll see where they all end up, but they can't all go in the first round. So, all right. That was it. I just didn't want it's hard to switch back and forth between.
I know that's what I'm trying to do too.
It's hard.
Nice. The live chat box that you guys can see over there is actually including both, which is pretty cool. I like that. I like that you guys get a shared forum.
Oh, nice.
Because our numbers are already starting to converge a little bit. 130 on YouTube, 315 on Twitch.
315.
Yeah, we're doing. We need to start doing these in the evening. Apparently,
my numbers don't say 315.
Oh, well, your numbers
are off. Apparently,
I don't know. Maybe mine are.
I'm wondering if that 315 is both. Because I have 180. I have 188.
Maybe.
So 188 and 35 is...
That would actually make
135 would be about 315, right?
That's true. Oh, it must be combining both. Because my Streamlabs is now... Well, it's only showing me the Twitch chat. Oh, never mind. Don't hate on YouTube, Twitch. You're getting jealous. All right. Any more questions before we jump in? Is the league still on FX? No, I think that show is way over.
Whoa, wait, can we have Erik shave his beard? You don't want to see that.
That would be.
I
would out of curiosity.
I have a picture.
What's underneath there? From when though?
From when I got married, which is the last time.
Which is how long ago?
15 years.
One year we'll get Erik shaves his beard on the Movember goals. What would it take?
Oh, I don't know.
How many subs for you to grow your beard? I don't. I mean,
he'd have to. Would you have to get like a hair club subscription?
Maybe.
Have it
a chia pet. Maybe just put those weird seeds on my chin. That's the question, Darth Vader. Yeah. Maybe we should do. You know how the Lions do is it beneath the helmet or under the helmet?
Under
the helmet.
Yeah.
Just do a behind the beard.
So I was working in the schools at this time. I was actually at a class. I was teaching at this time when I got married, and I had a beard. Way before that.
Mm-hmm.
And so like really I've had a beard probably 20 something years, and I only shaved it when I got married. And when I shaved it to get married, my kids at my school, they freaked out. And then they were like, grow it back.
I think my favorite videos are on the internet are just like when kids react to their dad or shaving their beard or mustache.
And they cry.
They cry. I'm just like,
they all do.
It's still him. Not that I like videos of kids crying. That's kind of what I made it sound like. I don't get pleasure out of kids crying. Relax, chat. I didn't. You know what? I didn't like that viral trend of parents cracking eggs on their kids' heads. That became a thing for some reason. They thought it was a funny little prank, and every single time the kid would cry because it was just like you broke this trust between them. It wasn't that it hurt them. It's an egg. Anyways, off my little soapbox. Off my little.
That was a weird pivot to try and justify that you don't like kids crying.
Yeah, I felt like I needed to do that. I hated the taking kids candy on Halloween thing. Oh, remember that?
Dumb. Yeah, that's dumb.
And I think
that's not funny. It's mean.
Yeah. Well, that's what. So was the other thing.
Yeah. All you do is you wait till they're sleeping or at school, and that's when you take the candy.
Right. You just take it one by one. They're not going to notice. But exactly. There was that whole trend.
The slow drain.
Was it Jimmy? It was Jimmy Kimmel who did it, right? Like it was just like lie to your kids that you lost all their candy, and film them cry. What? Weird.
I don't like them crying. I do find it funny when they get hit with like a ball or something. That's how.
So you don't like the mental anguish, but physical pain, bring it.
Yeah, it's funny.
You know what?
They're not hurt that bad.
You're a dad of 3. I'll allow it.
Look at Laura. Laura's selling me out.
Oh, she's in the chat.
Yeah. Erik has a huge stash of candies and cookie in his desk. I do. I do. I have a cookie jar on my desk. Okay, hold on. I gotta set the story.
Well, here's the thing. Okay. It's all Werther's originals, so it's not really candy.
No, okay. My daughters have a computer desk with their 2 computers. My older 2 that actually have computers, not the little one. And there's a bench in front of my desk, right? So my desk face out. There's a bench in front. There's a chair in the corner, and then we have a nice chair for the baby as well, that the dog sleeps in. But there's like all these spots. So the kids end up a lot of the time gravitating into my office and sitting around. And so I bought a cookie jar so that I could have treats and stuff, and like everybody's happy and content. And I bought cookies when they went on sale, and I just store them on my desk, because if I put them in the closet, it's free game. If I in the pantry, it's free game, and the kids are going to get them, right? But so I take the ones that I want for the cookie jar that I like, and I put them in my desk. It's fine. And then I happen to have a bag of Halloween candy. That's fine. The caramel kind, like that. It's Halloween. It's not like I keep a bag of candy in my office drawer all year round. It's Halloween.
What kind of cookies?
Vienna fingers. They're like a vanilla cream in the middle of like a shortbread type cookie.
Okay.
EO fudge.
Sure.
Like the ones with the fudge.
Yeah,
It's like that, except same type of cookie, vanilla.
Got it.
And then EO fudge, I have that as well. And then in this last one, I bought like a cranberry, it's almost like a kind of like a sugar cookie with like cranberries and stuff. I don't know. I had never had it before. So I was like, they were on sale. So I was like, yeah, whatever.
Can we get a segment of Erik Candy and Cookie Talk instead of talking about the Ravens game?
Yeah, I thought that's what we were doing.
Is Laura torching you even more? Old man Apparently. Cookies.
Look, EO fudge are not old man cookies. If it's just for me, I'll buy the double stuff too, because like that's the good stuff. But
yeah,
for the kids, I can't.
Double stuff EL fudge or just double stuff Oreos? Is double stuff EL fudge a thing?
Oh yes.
Oh
yeah. Oh yeah. It's awesome. But you don't want to have those available for the kids, because that's way too much.
Right.
Like one EO fudge is much different than a double stuff EO fudge when you're giving it to
Plus,
a kid.
Plus, they're probably doing the whole like lift off the top, throw away the 2 cookies.
No, they give the cookies back to me, and then they're like, "You eat them," because that's what kids do with all food. Like they're like, "I don't want this.
Yes,
you eat it."
Right.
Yeah. So.
No one clipped me doing that licking thing, by the way. I didn't like how that looked when I was looking myself in the eyes. It was weird. Goofa, you're being a goofball right now, though. He's jumping between the YouTube and the Twitch chats. It's disorienting me. Listcast? Someone's got to redeem it. What do you want? Oh, someone did do a listcast. LJ, what do you want? Did I miss it? Eric's top 5 candies.
Oh man, people will be mad at one of them.
Oh, I love it.
Like they'll be absolutely mad at one of them. Gosh.
Yo, CJ, hold on. $10 donated over on YouTube. Our first donation via YouTube. CJ says 45 months of Twitch subs down the drain. Thank you, CJ. Save some of that though, please. Save for Movember. All right, Eric's top 5 candies. Here we go.
Oh man,
we're filibustering the second segment where we have to talk about the Ravens game. Here we go.
I have to do them in order, right? Instead of I can't just be like, oh, these are the 5 that I like.
Ideally, you'd have an order to them.
Ideally in order. Okay.
Do you need some time to think about them?
Probably. Let me just write a couple down.
Okay. You know what? I wasn't asked, but I'm going to give mine anyways.
Good.
Oh, you know what? LJ said any order, and it was his list cast.
Okay.
So.
All right.
I feel like I've done this before.
Okay. You have? I haven't.
Yeah, probably way back. Oh man.
I know there's one that I'm like missing.
I'm definitely going to miss one too. All right, I got mine. This is my very hastily put together list. Number 5, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. I know people are going to be mad it's that low. Deal with it. Number 4, Peanut M&Ms. Love me some peanut M&Ms. It's essentially a Reese's but with more texture. And texture is important when you're eating candy. Speaking of texture and candy, the most underrated candy bar in existence that is still around but barely, whatchamacallits. Absolutely love whatchamacallits. Number 2, because I had to get something fruity in here, Sour Patch Kids Watermelon Edition. I love those little watermelon ones. I don't know what it is about them, but I love them. Number 1, with a bullet, no question, Snickers bars. Best candy ever.
All right. Yeah, I'm having a hard time with this one.
Yo, Damian Smith, thank you for the 2. What is that? Pounds? I don't know my my international currency, but thank you, Damian Smith. It says, "Oh, you've enabled this." We have super chats now. Thank you, Damian. Appreciate it, buddy.
All right, this is the one people are gonna hate. Ready?
Yeah.
Almond Joy.
Yep,
I love Almond Joy.
Oh.
Everyone is going to hate it.
Oh boy, does that have like one single almond in it? Is that how it works? And the rest is just coconut and chocolate.
Yep. People hate it. People yell at me about it. But every time my kids come home, I get all the Almond Joys because I love them. Twix, those are hard to come by in my house. Twix are awesome. Love Twix. I could eat them all day.
You get a little cookie
but the kids,
and candy bar in one.
Do. Chewy Sweet Tarts.
Oh, yeah.
Version. The chewy version are fantastic.
They are. I haven't had a chewy sweet tart in forever.
Those might be. That actually might be number 2 on my list.
Ooh, that's a good one.
At Trader Joe's and then at other places, they have like York peppermint patties, but with chunks of like candy cane on top of like peppermint. Like so it's like your York peppermint, but then with like extra. Like that's in my top 5. That you get those at like the holidays. But my number 1 is very hard to find. It's Mars bars. I love Mars bars. They're so hard to find.
I've never had one. I don't think. I know it's a big Canadian thing, right? Like it's
European too. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're so hard to find, but that's maybe why I like them so much. But yeah, Mars bars is number 1. Chewy Sweet tart's number 2.
What's in a Mars bars? Is it just nougat?
It's nougat, but like the it has like a filling that's kind of like a Three Musketeers type filling, except it's flavored, and that kind of flavored. It's hard to exactly pinpoint what it is, but it's
Erik likes a nice Charleston chew.
I when I was younger, probably.
Interesting.
Yeah, Mars is fantastic, and I think it's probably number 1 because I never get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I do get it, it's like a treat.
That's kind of how I feel about whatchamacallits. It's a European pinky in the air. That's right.
But yeah, so I don't know. I think some of the stuff I like is a little bit hard to find, a little bit more seasonal. Let me tell you something though. That's my top 5. I will eat almost any candy though. Like I love all candies. Like Reese's are sensational. The problem is you get inundated with Reese's. You know what I mean? Snickers are sensational. Like you said peanut M&Ms. They make caramel M&Ms. I really like caramel. What it is.
I like crispy M&Ms too. I almost put crispy M&Ms, but there's just not enough in a crispy M&M. There's not enough substance in a crispy M&M. What did Laura say now? As long as it's warm and available in his pocket, he's game.
Warm. The candy that's in my office is the Snickers, Twix, Milky Way, caramel M&Ms. It's the caramel mix. That's what I bought.
That's a good mix.
That's
I'm not big on Three Musketeers and Milky Way.
Freeze your Three Musketeers. Oh. That's it. That's a fun twist on that.
I might be down with that. I'm not into the freezing of the Snickers.
No, because it
gets too hard.
Yeah. What the Three Musketeers with the Three Musketeers though, if you freeze them, they're great. If you freeze them and then let them thaw a little bit, where you can actually bite into them, that's the way to do it.
That's very much like, and I think our Twitch chat at least knows this. If the long timers, my secret snack food hack is mint M&Ms in the fridge.
You know what I put in the freezer? The mint Girl Scout cookies.
Mm-hmm. Thin mints. That's a classic. Yeah. A lot of people do that, but
yeah,
I think a better twist on it is thin Oreos in the fridge. Trust me.
Was Erik a former? No, I'm not. I wasn't a former fat kid. I'm a current fat adult. I was skinny up until 30, and then that was it. My metabolism stopped working. My eating behaviors did not.
All right, I think it's time to get back into it.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Did I say mint M&Ms? I meant to say mint Oreos if I said M&Ms. Oreos. Mint Oreos.
They make are those the ones with the green?
Yes.
With the green, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I actually have some of those that I bought for my kids in my cabinet, and they don't eat them. I could bring them. I can probably bring them to you on Monday.
Sure.
If you're interested.
Sure.
I mean, I got to get them through security, but
all right.
I think I got.
Yeah. Hey, Lions and stuff. Touchdowns. Exactly. Frog bark. Let's get into it.
Touchdowns.
Let's get back into our podcast mode.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Mommy wanted me to bring this to you.
You know what I haven't tried yet, but I bought these.
Oh.
What are these anyway?
Are those Rice Krispies?
They're like rice cakes, but they're peanut butter flavored. With, I haven't tried them yet. I just bought them when I was at the store. Thank you for this. by the way.
This is going to
This is
turn into a
definitely-
mukbang stream where we're just
Mommy said
eating on
she
stream.
was going to do it though.
Oh, there's my my shortbread. The cranberry one. Thank you. Now that's really loud into the mic, I bet. So will you take back what you can carry and say hi to everyone? Okay, good. Good job. All right. Thank you, child. You can yes, take them with you. Put them in my
Cakes.
cookie jar. Put them in my cookie jar. I did call them rice cakes to Laura the other
But
day.
are they they're Rice Krispies, right?
They're like Rice Krispies. Yeah.
okay.
But I was like,
Rice
they're
Krispies.
like rice cakes with chocolate on them. I was like, that's how I justify them. Like, it's like rice cakes. It's healthy.
That's right. All right. Enough shenanigans. Let's get serious and talk about a game.
Oh God, I was trying to eliminate trying to have to think about that game again. So, all right, we can do it.
I'll start with Marvin Jones. There was some question at some point in the chat about Marvin Jones. I'm just going to make up my own.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. And we are back here on the Midweek Mailbag, myself and Erik Schlitt, answering your questions here live on twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit and now YouTube again. So if you want to check us out, if you're more of a YouTuber, we are now live on YouTube as well. Before we went live here, Marvin Jones news broke. He stepped away from the team to deal with a family matter. The Lions subsequently released him as part of an agreement. It wasn't like, oh, you don't want to play for us? We're kicking you out the door. Like, they came to an agreement, best for both parties, for him to step away from football and for the Lions to have an open roster spot. So I've had a couple questions about Marvin Jones. I don't have a specific one in front of me, but I guess the easiest question is how does that change the Lions wide receiver room? Obviously, Marvin Jones wasn't getting a lot of production, but he was playing a fairly significant amount every week. So how do Lions adjust? Who maybe gets an increased role, and what are they losing in Marvin Jones, and what maybe are they gaining from someone else stepping up?
Well, you're losing veteran leadership right off the bat, which is unfortunate. You still have Josh Reynolds, you still have Khalif. They've been in the league for a while, and St. Brown is the consummate leader, even though he's young. So you can sustain that, but I think Marvin brought a different perspective. His skill set translates as a teacher to JMO, which I think would have been very beneficial. But his absence will increase the opportunities for JMO as well, which could also benefit him. So, it's unfortunate. He was the oldest wide receiver in the NFL, which is kind of crazy because he's only 33.
Right.
But that's just the nature of offensive skill positions in the NFL now. And so they lose a veteran leader. They lose a steady contributor, a blocker, locker room presence. Those are all valuable things. At the same time, you could tell he wasn't the player he was the last time he was in Detroit. When JMO came back, it seemed to cut into his snaps even more, and maybe it would have progressed that way even further down to the future. So, you feel bad that he has to leave or feels the need to leave because you don't want to, we don't know what the situation is. And, but obviously it's serious enough that he's choosing to exit. But, I think the Lions will be able to adjust, but there are valuable things that walk out the door with him. Yeah.
And you have to respect someone that realizes something requires his full attention and football becomes secondary. And so hopefully it's not something too serious, but it obviously is serious enough to pull him away from football. So all thoughts are with him and his family right now. In terms of on-field impact and things like that, I think one interesting, maybe undersold outcome from Sunday's game, and again, you have to parse through how much was just like the game was out of hand versus how much, they actually wanted to play these guys. But Antoine Green if I'm not mistaken, had the exact same amount of snaps as Jameson Williams in that game. He's going to get more opportunities. He's slowly kind of been getting here and there opportunities, and while I don't think he has the first NFL catch yet, I think it's coming, and it's coming maybe sooner than people think or expect. And listen, like, I know all the conversation is about Jameson Williams and when he's going to progress and finally live up to his building, but like, they're also trying to make Antoine Green a better player, a contributing player. Yeah. And I think this is going to open up some opportunities for him too as well. I'm not saying he's going to suddenly become a 4 catch a game type of guy, but he's going to be someone that they rely on, I think. And some people are thinking, okay, well now there's a wide receiver, there's a vacancy on the 53-man roster. Let's go get someone. Let's go add a wide receiver. I don't think they're going to have that much interest in adding to their wide receiver room. I think they like their wide receiver room because a guy that we know they really like, Khalif Raymond, he's barely playing at all anymore. I think he played like 13 snaps against the Ravens. So I think they're happy with their room. I think they're just going to give more opportunities to the young guys now that Marvin's gone. And I think that's maybe something to be mildly excited about, because I'm interested in what Antoine Green can bring to the table. And once he maybe develops a little bit more chemistry with Jared Goff, we'll find out.
My guess is you could see Darrell Daniels maybe come back, or maybe Divine Zigbo gets a promotion, because they've already elevated him twice.
Yeah.
And they're going to need they've been using a 4th running back on the roster all season. So that's kind of my guess. Is one of those. They're still going to keep an offense. Still going to add an offensive skill player, but I think it's going to be one of the other 2, not necessarily wide receiver. The 5 that they have, they feel pretty confident in.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, next question from Andy Laz on Twitter. We talked a little bit about Jack Campbell. This is another one on Jack. Says, what position do you see Jack Campbell settling into, / where do you think he will find the most success? And obviously this question is directed around the fact that he's been playing that Sam linebacker role, which is essentially an edge position. We talked a lot about it last week with Lions coaches. I think both Kelvin Shepherd and Dan Campbell were just like, listen, it's nice to have a guy there that naturally can drop into coverage, because we've asked a lot of our guys to do. We've asked Charles Harris to do it. We've asked Julian Okwara to do it. We've obviously James Houston, when he was here, when he was healthy, he was asked to do it a lot. Jack Campbell's the only one that can do that naturally, as Kelvin Shepherd put it. And he's much better. There's no question about it. To me, the question though is like, okay, he's got that part down, but the other guys are much better at the other kind of more common edge position, like holding the edge, making sure, containing, and not, that was a big problem for Jack Campbell on Sunday is losing contain. Pass rushing is not there with Jack Campbell yet. So, okay, great. He can drop into coverage. He can play the off-ball part of the Sam linebacker role, but he could also just play off-ball linebacker. Right. And play to his strengths there. So I don't really see why he's in the Sam role, other than maybe they just don't think anyone else can do it right now. But do you think that's where his career is headed at this point? Like, they're obviously hammering it home with him right now. He's playing it a lot. Is it out of necessity? Is it because the Lions have Derek Barnes playing his butt off? What are your thoughts on his future here?
My future projection for Jack Campbell is he's going to be an off ball. He's going to be a starting Mike in this league as he acclimates. At this point, I think what they were looking for is to try and get their best front 7 on the field at the same time.
Yep.
And they wanted to they're looking for someone that they can get consistent production out of, or at least put a talented player or 2 opposite Aiden. And so you're not getting the production you want out of Charles Harris. You're not getting the production that would be required for a starting level play out of either of the Okwaras. Romeo's looking good, but he's much better as backing up Hutchinson than he is like starting opposite Hutchinson. I think right now he's not really been able to return to his pre-Achilles self, in my opinion. And so what they've done is they've gone to their most consistent edge guy, and that's John Kaminsky. And Kaminsky, though, is best suited as kind of like that 5 technique edge guy. And then it allows them, with Kaminsky on the field, to be able to add that athletic skill player that can drop into coverage. And ideally what that does is it increases their ability to cover underneath, which is where most quarterbacks win, in that short to intermediate level. Now that adding that third linebacker allows them to have coverage there. At the same time, Jack's athletic enough that they think he can contribute coming off the edge as well. I think this is our best 7 guys type of thing. I don't think they have the answer they want, though,
right?
Because like you said, I don't think Jack's producing at the pass rushing level that the team wants. The other guys aren't producing in the coverage aspect that they want.
Right.
And so you've got this, like, you're not getting a complete player at that position right now. Jack's only going to get better by playing. And I think they know that.
Yeah.
And I think they're like, let's just keep playing him and keep playing him. He gives us the best opportunity to run the style we want. And if he gains more experience, he's just going to get better. And it's kind of like playing the long game with Jack Campbell at the same time, also trying to get their best front. And I don't know if they have an answer right now opposite Aiden. But what I do think is, since they've kind of switched to this front, I think Aiden's less productive as well. So
yeah, he is. I guess I get they wanted 7 men in the box against the Ravens, right? Like that was
and the Bucks
and the Bucks
too. Yeah.
Why not have Kaminsky as your edge, Aiden as your edge, 2 linebackers, and Brian Branch?
Well, that's the thing, is Branch was gone too. That could have been part of why they.
But now, this past week, he only played 50% of the defensive snaps. Like, if your defense is drowning, if your defense is drowning, though, get Brian Branch out there. I'm sorry, like.
Well, look, first game back from injury.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah.
Maybe as Branch plays more, then that's where they start switching back, right? Yeah. Because really, their best set, in my opinion, is to have Branch on the field and just line up Aiden and Kaminsky and let those 2 guys go.
That's what I'm saying. Yes, that's what I want.
Could we see them switch back to that against the Raiders, who, remember, Baltimore and the Bucks are both teams that are going to run at least half the time.
Yeah.
And they're teams that have quarterbacks that can get loose out of the pocket.
Yep.
Raiders don't have that. The Raiders are more traditional. They're more in the pocket, and they move away from the run really quick, right? Even though, okay, we can talk about the Raiders a little bit more. My God, what a mess. But look, they had the best. They had the rushing leader on their team last year, yet they were still like so pass heavy. Like, and then they come back and they try and utilize them, and it's not working. Yeah. Okay, the Raiders. I think Josh McDaniels is a huge reason why they're so bad. So could we see them switch back to what was working? I would hope so.
I would too.
Because like Aiden was so good in that role that they used previously. And then maybe you get an opportunity to get Charles Harris back on to play on the opposite side, give him another chance to go. So this switch though that they did the last couple of weeks, it seemed more of a detriment to the overall production, in my opinion. But the logic I'm guessing is that they just thought it was the best. Like they wanted to be able to load the box, create a wide edge, contain that, like that's.
They said it. They literally said like it was about getting their best players out there. Like Derek Barnes is playing so well that they don't want to take him off for Jack Campbell. And so their answer was to get both of them out there in some way.
Yeah.
And
I, hopefully
maybe it's better for the long-term health of the team, right? Because like you said, the only way Jack Campbell is going to get better is if he's out there playing. But in the interim, can we not let the Ravens hang 38 on us?
It'll be interesting to see if they switch it up, though.
Yeah.
This week will be a true litmus test of, are they switching to this, like, what looks more like a traditional 3-4,
Right.
or are they going to stick into this hybrid, 2-4 with a nickel on the field all the time, which is, I really think that was working really good for them early in the season.
Yeah. All right, last question here, and we put it off long enough here. Ben Green on Twitter asks, did the performance against Baltimore change your opinion about this team's ceiling?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah.
I definitely think there were things that were exposed, and it definitely caused me to have some pause. At the same time, it's really tough to not, lose a game. It's really tough to be able to go long distances and long stretches without losing the game. Yes, it was a bad beating, but we said this in the POD direct stream. This reminded me of the Carolina game and the fact that they were not prepared for it. And Coach Campbell came out and said the same thing. I didn't prepare them for it.
Right.
And so it reminds me of that. And can they do the same thing that they did after that Carolina game, come back and then punch the next team in the mouth and then get refocused? I think they can, because they've done it. So while it did cause me some pause, it doesn't make me think that they're going to be any less productive. It's not going to change my score prediction or my season record prediction.
Sure.
It's not going to change the fact that I think they're winning the North and probably going winning the playoff game or two and seeing if they can even go past that. So I don't think it's really changed a ton. But it did cause me some pause.
Yeah. I'll admit I probably got a little bit swept up in some of the excitement at 5-1 and pie in the sky. And listen, is this team still capable of winning the Super Bowl? Yes, I think they are, but they're not there yet. And I thought maybe they were playing like the best team in the NFL through 6 weeks, but I think this game proved to me that they're not there yet. They're not at that level. And I think I should have known from the beginning that there was going to be some regression to the mean with this defense. I don't think it was ever truly a top 5 unit, no matter what the DVOA score said, no matter whatever stats you want to throw out there said. They still have issues in pass rush. They still have issues in coverage, and those have really been exposed the last 2 weeks and in the Seattle game. And so they've got work to do on that side of the ball. Offensively, I'm completely unchanged from that game. Nothing about how the offense performed in that game changed how I think they're going to play offensively for the rest of the year. They're still going to be a top 5 unit. But defensively, I think they're further back than what we were saying a week ago. And I think deep down, I probably already knew that, right? They haven't played a ton of great offenses. They haven't played a lot of great quarterbacks. So when they do, it's going to be trouble. The good thing is, look at the schedule. Outside of maybe Kirk Cousins, I'm not sure they play a lot of good offenses the rest of the way.
I think if you were overly concerned, if you walked out of that game and you were having heart palpitations and rethinking, your perspective, the game on Monday night should have helped level that out.
Yeah.
Because the 49ers lost to the Browns and then they lost to the Vikings. And the 49ers were considered the number 1 team in the NFC. They were the most balanced. They have the most skill players at the different positions and they just lost 2 in a row. Right. And it hopefully offers a huge warning to the Lions that say, don't take a team lightly just because you're at home on Monday Night Football. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
So don't take this Raiders team lightly. it's an easy talking point, an easy coaching point for Campbell this week to be like, look what happened to the 49ers. Let's not be the 49ers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the 49ers have lost twice. The Ravens have lost twice. The Dolphins have lost twice. Like, teams are going to lose. There's a reason there's only been 2 teams who have finished the regular season perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so it's hard to be that good, play at that level, endure injuries, and just be able to maintain. Like, you're going to have hiccups. It's part of it. It was an ugly hiccup, but that tends to be what the hiccups are with this group, right? Like, 2 of their 3 losses in the last 15, 16 games have been ugly.
Yeah.
But the rest of the times they've been good. And so,
but
I'm hoping.
I think I'm just gonna say I think it's fair to wonder if that's a serious concern, because if you can't handle adversity in a game like that and it snowballs that quickly, that's bad news. I would say Seattle is the counterexample though, right? Like, Seattle, you took a couple punches in the mouth there in the third and fourth quarter, and you came back and got yourself into overtime, but you can't have these big blowouts happen again all the time. Not that they're happening all the time. Like, you have this one, you have the Carolina one last year, you have the Patriots one. Some people throw the Dallas one in there, and I feel like you don't remember that Dallas game because they were on the goal line to take the lead in the fourth quarter of that game. So Dallas doesn't belong in there. But I mean, Philadelphia, the bury the tape game, right? I would say even the Miami game that got Aubrey Pleasant fired. Like, there's a lot of examples of them just kind of getting their butts kicked pretty bad. And you hope that's not a sign of just this team being unable to handle adversity within a game.
Well, look, I think a lot of those you can kind of look past, in my opinion, because like they see, once they kind of flip that switch, like 17, 18 games ago or whatever it was, right? Like,
yeah,
they've lost in the 3 games that they've lost over that time period. They've been blown out twice, but they've also bounced back. And so now's the opportunity to show that they can do that again. And if they can, everything's fine. You lose to the Raiders on Monday night, I'll check back in on my panic level then. But like right now, I'm not overly concerned because
I was just gonna say, and you know, there are games when they faced adversity and bounced back and won, and maybe that's why I'm not talking about them. Like the Chiefs game, remember they fell behind in that Chiefs game. That was a comeback win. That I'm sure they have more comeback wins, you know, in this
losing
crazy
to the Packers
13
in
and
week
4.
18.
Sure, right. So it happens, but it just, I don't know, the embarrassment of a blowout like that, and as Dan Campbell, a game that you were never even in. You just can't have those. You really can't.
The nice thing is it only counts as 1 loss.
It's true. All right. We'll call it there. Thank you all for listening, watching, wherever you are, Twitch, YouTube, or whatever podcasting platform you're listening on. We will be back with our preview podcast. We're probably going to be recording on Thursday night for our Raiders preview. A lot of our content is going to get pushed back a day because it's obviously a Monday night game, so might be coming to you late on the podcast feed or on the website. So just be prepared for all of that. We'll be doing one live stream right after the game on Monday night. I won't be a part of that, but maybe a Halloween night post-game show as well on Tuesday night. But obviously keep up with us on all the social medias, on Twitch, on YouTube, and prideofdetroit.com. But until next time, for Erik, I'm Jeremy. It's chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
All right. As a reminder, YouTube, after we record, like we just finished recording, we do like to hang out for a little bit with our live audience, give you guys a little extra special treat because you're live here. Speaking of extra special treats, but anyways, yeah, so we'll hang out for a little bit here. We obviously did like almost a full hour in between the first and second segment there. So we'll probably not hang out too long, but yeah, if you guys have any more questions, a couple people have tipped me off, and I can see it myself. Like the YouTube stream is, for whatever reason, like 5 seconds behind. I don't know what to do about that. I don't know if there's anything I can do about that. But sorry, YouTube.
Still the same great content.
Still, it is. Yes, you're catching the news 5 seconds after it actually happened. So
it's like watching the televised game at Ford Field.
That's right.
Where you watch it happen and then you wait for the TV to play catch up.
But it's like 2 plays behind this year. It's driving me crazy.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible.
And it makes tweeting the game really weird because all I want to do is like go J-Boo! And I have to wait like 15 seconds.
It's longer than that.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. It's really more like a minute or more. Have we got any updates on Mosley's health? I mean, I think it's a torn ACL. He's out for the year. Yeah. I don't think there's anything else that you need to know. I mean, I don't know if he's gotten his surgery yet, but I imagine he probably has.
Oh, I would think.
Yeah.
I would think he would have had it pretty quick. It depends, though. If he has swelling, like they may have to wait for the swelling to go down. But at this point, I would think he would have it.
When you tweet, you're about 30 seconds ahead of my YouTube feed. The best is when I'm at home and the game is either on CBS or ABC because my digital antenna doesn't pick up the local Fox station, and that makes me mad. But because I'm watching on a digital antenna, I'm like a good 10, 15 seconds ahead of everyone else watching on like a cable box or YouTube TV or whatever.
I feel like the in-person tweeting has been okay, but there are times when there are certain people who just way get out ahead of everybody.
They're just like, I don't care. Lions pick 6.
Hello.
Mm.
Who do you say hi to? Who's that?
Did you forget my name?
What's his name?
What's
his name?
It's been about a month since we've seen each other.
What is it?
Is she trying to read it?
Probably.
Letters.
Oh, here you go. Can you read it now? J. Yeah. Say hi to Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hi.
Jeremy. You gotta keep up so you can see. Say hello.
Hello.
Dante Jackson is a name that's come up, and obviously the Panthers could very well be in sell mode. Do you have any opinions on Dante Jackson? Is it it's Dante, right?
I don't. Not really. I think it was that the guy PFF
hates.
No, there's one guy.
His PFF grade is horrible this year. I think he's almost given up a perfect passer rating this year.
Boy. Yeah, PFF had the Lions acquiring a Panthers corner. So I don't remember. I just glanced at it. What do you see over there, huh?
Sees all your candy?
She's used to the candy.
Read it.
Yeah, you can read it. Go ahead. What's it say? Yeah, pride of.
Nice spell.
Yeah, that says Detroit.
Can spell egg shit.
Live chat. Yeah. Good job.
I spell it.
Yeah.
She can read, chat, so don't put in naughty words in the
Say
chat.
goodbye.
Oh.
She actually can.
Good night,
I
Daddy. Love
know.
you. Good night, Daddy. Love you. Daddy, kiss
Bye,
you.
sweetheart.
Love you. Night night.
Mwah.
Aw,
Bye, baby.
Everyone say aw. I got started a little late. Did Erik or Jeremy want a certain position for Holmes to trade for? I think we both agreed corner is probably one on the list. You mentioned wide receiver. I'm not all that into wide receiver. I'm more on edge, but like if you're trading for an edge, it has to be a top end edge. And one, I don't know if I'm going to be out there.
If you could get a guy like Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton from Denver, on the cheap. Great. I'm not prioritizing that, and I'm not giving up a ton, but like, I like Sean Murphy Bunting, Central kid, right?
Where's he now?
He was at Tampa. They drafted him. Now he is
Titans.
Yeah, I just saw him play, right? Oh, was it Titans?
Titans.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I like him. He's physical. He'd be. See, I don't know if he'd start over Jerry necessarily, but like he's a guy who fits. Would I think fit in schematically, and local kid, right?
Yep, he's from Michigan. A lot of people are asking us for like insider, like, oh, what about this rumor? What about this rumor? I'm gonna tell you right now. One, I wouldn't believe much that's out there. Two, we don't like to throw rumors against the wall. That's not really what Erik and I are all about. Like if we have something, we're gonna report it. If we have things that we are hearing or rumors or, you know, things that we can't really confirm or deny, we're usually not going to talk about that sort of stuff because personally, I don't think that's how you should report. I think you either have something or you don't.
You get burned a lot too. I think that's been very true. So
just so you know, like that's generally not what we're going to give you at Pride of Detroit is rumors and what we're hearing. And I'll give you like analysis based on what I'm hearing and like, you know, what players think about this and coaches think about that. But I don't think there's a lot of value in spreading loose rumors. I understand people get excited about it. I understand you guys, half of you here want that sort of stuff, but I don't think it's good journalism. And I just don't think it's.
Well, like, okay, even if you trust someone,
yeah,
they could be wrong still, right?
Right.
Like, there's only one quote unquote source that I know that's never missed.
Yeah.
And everyone else that I might have talked to has said things in confidence and then been wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so like even the best intentioned leaks can be wrong. Right. And so it doesn't help, you know, it doesn't do you any good to just speculate.
And then it also raises false expectations, right? Like all these rumors like, oh, the Lions are going to get this guy from Washington and this guy from Carolina. And like suddenly you're riling up the Lions fan base. And then when it comes to the trade deadline and they don't do anything, you have suddenly built up this expectation to disappoint everybody. And I just like, it's a waste of emotional energy when like none of that is actually like you're getting excited over nothing.
Look, people get excited. People like it's natural to get excited and to speculate about what if and what could be.
Sure.
And like we've seen it, you know, when one idea catches on and then people catch on that and it's all of a sudden social media is a big game of telephone. Right?
Yep.
We're like one person says one thing and then the next thing you know it's, oh my gosh, the Lions are acquiring X, Y, and Z for a 7th round pick, you know?
Right.
So
and I don't even like writing the like, here's a good fit or like the Lions could go after this guy. That like I don't like writing that stuff that much either because you know there are people out there that will aggregate in a very irresponsible manner. And so if someone writes, hey, the Lions could go after this guy at the trade deadline, someone's going to say, Lions beat writer says Lions are going after this guy. It's like, nope, read what I said. It's just like, again, you're building this expectation. You're playing that game of telephone. I think that's a really good way to put it. I don't know. I just rather analyze things that after they happen than try to predict what will happen. I mean, I write preview pieces, so it's not completely true, but
we said this before off air. The trade deadline is the supplemental draft.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like, maybe, oh, how could we improve the team, and then not a lot of options, and then nothing ends up happening for the majority of teams. Yeah. And so that's what it is. Like it's fun to think about, but it's more fun to think about in the off season.
No, neither of them are fun.
No.
Nope. It's
I
why
disagree.
the off season is bad, because it's the only thing you can do. Anyways, that's my little mini rant about trade deadline stuff, because even some of the, like, I've already seen some people run with stories about the Lions are actually interested in this guy, and I'm like, I read the original piece, and that's not what I really read from that. I read this guy speculating.
That's part of the problem. Reading comprehension is,
yeah.
And not everybody has I'm a real journalism sweatshirt, and so they don't abide by the same rules, and so
we'll see. We'll see. I hope the Lions do something, because that's going to bring excitement. I'm going to get excited about that if they feel that this team is good enough where they need to go out and be a little bit more aggressive in their last opportunity to really add to this roster. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. If you look at Campbell's history, it says no. But then I brought this up before. The way he approached last year's draft completely flipped the switch and showed that he is willing to do whatever. Yep. And he's capable of doing whatever. So, like, even though based on what we know and what we've seen and how he projects, like, using picks and stuff like that in the future, I absolutely think, while I believe he's not going to do anything, I could absolutely see him do something, because he flipped things on its head already once before on me. So,
and I mean, it's just, he's in a new environment now, right? Like, he's in a spot where the Lions have never been before, which is, yeah, it would make sense to buy right now. You look, I was looking at lists today of, like, which teams could be buyers and which could be sellers. Like, all of them list the Lions. They're like, the Lions are in a good spot to win the division. They clearly need to add something after getting waxed by the Ravens. Like, this is Brad Holmes has just never been in that position. They weren't in a position to buy last year. They were 1-6. They weren't in a position to buy the previous year. They were 0-8 and 9 and whatever. Now they've got a winning record. Now they're first place in the NFC North. Now they're second place in the NFC. Like, different environments call for different actions, and so yeah, maybe he channels his inner Dorsey, or not Dorsey, whatever, Rams guy, Snead. Who knows?
They've got some cap space, but it's not as much as they had, heading into the offseason, right, heading into the season, because they've been hit by some big injuries. They got about like 15 million on IR, and then another 20 million in like dead cap. And so then you add in their salaries, practice squads, all that, then they've got, I think, around like 9 million open, something like that. Yeah. So, like, there's ways to make anything work. At the same time, I still think the long-term preference would be to be able to roll over as much of that as you can into next season. So,
for all those extensions coming. Does Marvin Jones Jr. release impact the cap? I would imagine so. Probably not a ton.
Yeah. No, his contract was guaranteed.
Oh, it was.
So yeah, so he had 2.2 million. Ew. That's all gonna hit this year. Now, it's so that 2.2 is gonna hit now, and then they're gonna have to replace him with another player. And so unless they're pulling that player from the current roster, that's $1 million you're going to add back on. So this retirement by or this stepping away from Marvin it's a pretty big swing. It's going to cost you another $1 million more than what you were spending with Marvin on the roster. So it's, it's $1 million, so it's not the end of the world, but at the same time, every time you put a guy on IR, that's another $1 million. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, it's
not great. Dan, everything gets pushed back a day, so the first injury report will be Thursday. We won't hear from Dan tomorrow like we do on a normal Wednesday. Coordinators will be Friday instead of Thursday. That sort of thing.
Yeah, there's going to be there'll be a presser on Saturday, right? And then a practice on Saturday. That's when we'll find out when the inactives are.
Yep.
So yeah, everything.
The
final
injury report
declarations.
designations.
Yeah, I have written injury declarations in the title more than once this season, and I don't know why.
Weird.
I've never used that term before until this year, and I've written it probably 2 or 3 times. I don't know why.
It's a weirdo. You're a weirdo.
Yeah.
That's why.
Well, that must be it.
All right. I think it's about time to get out of here. We're draining viewers all the way down to 200 total now.
Well,
and I'm tired. I'm yawning. I'm knocking things off my desk. And my headache is back. So I think it's time to get out of here. See if we can go raid somebody. I don't know if anybody that we like is live. I saw John drop by here for a little bit. More candy talk. No. You won't be able to stop us if we get going again. Point being, Snickers are the best. There we go. We can end on that. Odds versus Las Vegas, 7.5. Is that right? That's where it was
8.
before. It's up to 8 now?
8.
There you go. 8. And what happened the last time someone was favored by a touchdown or more on Monday night? Oh, no, let's not talk about it. Guys, we'll be back. Like I said, I think Thursday night. I haven't quite finalized the time for our guest. But I think it's going to be Thursday. Like I said, mostly everything else, though, is probably going to get pushed back. I feel like I'm going to push back on paper for Saturday instead of Friday. I'm sure Erik will want to push back his Honolulu blueprint for Saturday.
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah,
I have a thing on Friday that I have to go to.
That's gonna be fun. All right, we'll just end the stream there. But thank you to all of our people over on YouTube. Appreciate your guys' support. I'm happy for you guys that now you get to be a part of this. Twitch, you know I still love you. Okay, don't get jealous. I love y'all. We're just gonna be a big happy family now. And yeah, Mansim Sunday, 10 a.m. That's right. Good call, because yeah, I'll be at Allen Park for most of Saturday morning. So, but we'll get some Madden in before some true NFL football, and not a 2-timer. How dare you? And we'll leave it at that.
Are you going to be able to get at 10 a.m.? You might want to check your schedule.
On Sunday?
Oh, on Sunday. Yeah,
Sunday.
No. Sorry. Okay, sorry. My bad.
Pay attention. All right, everybody. We'll see you.